This is the most personal video I've ever made. I never thought dyslexia would help me build a music business, or write books, or teach thousands of bass players from all over the world. But it has. My name is James Eager. I'm a professional bass guitar player, educator, and founder of eBassGuitar.com. I've been inspired to make this video by the recent Jamie Oliver documentary on Channel 4 and a powerful video my friend and fellow bass guitar player and YouTuber Paul Thompson has made about living with multiple sclerosis. Their honesty gave me the inspiration and, quite frankly, the courage to share my own story with dyslexia. This is the story of how struggling at school, music college, and even to this very day has made me a better musician, a better teacher, and honestly, I believe a better human being. My story starts in the classroom, aged 9 in 1989. I noticed my rough book had been taken away from my desk, and a few days later handed back with a quiet word saying, "We think you might be dyslexic." At the time, I really didn't know what that meant. Back then, in the late 80s and 90s, dyslexia was just seen as getting your letters muddled up. Poor spelling and grammar, sloppy handwriting, maybe a slow reader. And there are still plenty of signs of exactly that right now. Like how often I write the word can instead when I mean can't, changing the meaning of an entire sentence without noticing. Those little moments still creep in most days. But back to 1989, I just knew I was being pulled out of break time for extra English lessons. I was missing football and playtime to work on the one thing I felt worst at and clearly didn't enjoy. And that was far from energizing for a 9-year-old boy. When I changed schools aged 13, I didn't want anybody to know. I even asked my mum not to mention it. I just wanted to fit in, not be seen as that kid. What I didn't realize was that dyslexia is so much more than reading, spelling, and grammar. It's only in recent months I discovered it affects short-term memory, organization, time management, habit creation, focus, distraction, bouncing around from task to task, processing speed, and overwhelm. All the invisible parts of life that nobody teaches you about. All of those times I felt completely overwhelmed trying to remember the detail of what someone had just said. That now makes sense too. It often felt like something was wrong with me. I now know it was part of how my brain processes information differently. Simple things like remembering where I put my keys can be a real challenge. It might seem like a small detail, but over time it can be infuriating. Not just for me, but for those around me too. It chips away at your confidence, especially when you can't explain why it keeps happening and others are getting frustrated with you over something that should seemingly be so easy. And for a long time, I thought I was just lazy or forgetful or not trying hard enough or didn't really like something I was supposed to be passionate about, or at a deeper level, on some days, I simply thought I wasn't good enough. But the reality was my brain just works differently. It's only in the last 6 months I've discovered that dyslexia is now part of what's known as being neurodivergent or neurodiverse. Here's a stat. Up to 25% of people are neurodivergent. Around 15% of school kids are dyslexic, and 50% of UK prisoners are believed to be undiagnosed dyslexics too. This isn't rare, it's just misunderstood. I internalized all of it. As a dyslexic, I was fortunate enough to get 25% extra time, as I thought at the time. According to my mum, I often used to refuse the extra time in exams because I didn't want to stand out. I'd finish early with the others just so I could leave on time. And when things went wrong, I retreated into my own shell. I thought if I just keep my head down, maybe I could hide it. Maybe retreating showed I was taking it all seriously, when in reality I was just often beating myself up and far too much in my own head. One moment I really clearly remember from my days at music college. I double booked myself between a big band rehearsal and audition. The other bass player coincidentally wasn't there. The band leader said, "I've come to expect this of you." I was embarrassed. Rightly so, I felt I deserved the comment at the time, and ultimately it did help me get a bit more organised. But it also stung, but not for the reason I thought at the time. I now know what I didn't need was judgment. I needed someone to help me get organised, to teach me those skills, right from day one. When I went to music college, I told nobody I was dyslexic. I didn't want to be seen as someone who needed extra help. I didn't really see how it would benefit what was largely a practical music degree. It wasn't until a few weeks before I left that I found out I could have applied for a grant for a laptop to help me along. I clearly didn't see dyslexia as something that could empower me. I only saw it as something that could make me feel lesser. And here's the thing, when you don't know what's going wrong, you start putting your defences up. You mask, you bluff, you make excuses. If only the other bass player had been there that day. You find any reason other than the one that makes you feel flawed. Because you don't know why it's happening. You just know that it shouldn't be. And that's where the shame starts growing from. What I wish I knew, I wasn't bad. I wasn't lazy. I was just unsupported and misunderstood in many areas I needed help in. Reading music was the big mountain I had to climb in my late teens, early 20s. I was in county youth orchestras with players who were often heading off to Oxford or Cambridge universities, and they weren't even studying music seriously. Seemingly, they could just glance at a page and play. I had to take it apart, line by line, note by note. It was a slow process. When things went wrong, I panicked. I'd get lost. I'd jump ahead. Naturally, there are other bass players who are far better readers and got chosen for gigs instead of me because when the bass goes wrong, it can easily car crash the whole of the rest of the band. But here's what I ultimately discovered. When I became a better musician and skills like my musical ear had improved, my knowledge of different styles of music, my repertoire knowledge, and general musical experience, I could catch up and interpret what was on the page so much better. It was a slow process, but I got there. And here's the great news. 95% of typical commercial reading situations don't freak me out right now. It goes to show what's possible with work and persistence. 8 or 9 years ago, I started building techniques to try and become more focused and organized. I needed it to achieve my goals in life. Little did I know I was using these to counteract some of what I now know are the symptoms of dyslexia. Today, I still use these strategies. I use 50-minute focus finders, headphones in, an amazing ambient music app called Brain FM. My phone goes off with 0 notifications and a 50-minute timer. I then go deep. 2 rounds of that, I'm more productive than ever. I layer my learning using multiple modalities. I now read a physical book and listen to it on Audible at the same time. I use repetition and visual memory. If I need to remember 3 things, I visualize them, I say them out loud, and I repeat. These are a few examples of things I had to figure out by trial and error. Nobody taught them to me properly. I just picked them up bit by bit. And we're now at such an exciting time with technology, especially for dyslexic learners. AI, automatic transcription tools, voice to text, read aloud features, it's all becoming so much more accessible. The overwhelm can be reduced dramatically with the right tools. And the best part is getting easier and cheaper to convert written context into voice, visual, and interactive formats. The tech is finally catching up with how people like us dyslexics naturally think and work. I have to be really clear. I don't see dyslexia as an excuse for being chaotic and disorganized and making life more difficult for those around you. But it's an explanation. And when you understand something, you can work with it. I've now built a career, a business, and a life around supporting how my brain works. I've written 6 books, taught thousands, played shows all over the world. Not in spite of dyslexia, but because of it. Dyslexia has taught me tenacity and resilience, how to keep going when it's tough. I've taken more knocks than Mike Tyson over the years to get where I am, but I keep getting up, And that grit became one of my greatest assets. It's forced me to be creative, to think differently about the world. It's trained me to break complex things down into their simplest parts. And that's been a gift to my students. And get this, I even discovered I enjoy copywriting a few years ago. Go tell that to the 15-year-old version of me sat in an English class with red pen all over his work, just waiting for the bell to ring. That kid had no idea what was coming. It's also given me a whole set of strengths I never expected. Big picture thinking. I often see connections and patterns before others do. Creative problem solving. I naturally think out the box and find alternative paths. Empathy and emotional intelligence. My own challenges have made me more understanding and far less judgmental. Storytelling and visual communication. While writing can be tough, I can teach and connect with people deeply through speaking and demonstrating. Risk-taking and innovation. Dyslexia has encouraged me to build new things, like my own business and my own career, rather than following the traditional paths. Dyslexia has taught me to be more resourceful, creative, and empathetic. It's not a barrier, it's a blueprint. According to some of the stats I've seen, only about 3% of schools routinely screen for dyslexia. Whatever the accurate number, I know it's really, really small. I've now come to realize how fortunate I was to get that diagnosis in 1989. Today, in 2025, I believe every primary school child should be screened for dyslexia. Just think what that could do for the overall prison population over time and the mental health and well-being of children in general today. I was fortunate. I was spotted early, but so many aren't. Here's another stat for you. 35% of entrepreneurs are dyslexic. Think of all that creative potential. In Jamie Oliver's documentary, one of the most striking ideas was this. If all children were taught in the way dyslexics needed to be taught, every student would benefit. The help a dyslexic needs is ultimately the same help every student needs to thrive. So, let's stop seeing this as a stigma, as I clearly must have done. Let's get children diagnosed and start seeing it as a superpower. And let's give people the help they need right from the very start. We have to bring the education system into the 21st century. Modernize it, adapt it, and make it truly inclusive. An outdated one-size-fits-all model doesn't serve 1 in 5 neurodivergent students today. It's time we build a system that works for everyone, not just the neurotypical. My journey through dyslexia has shaped so much. It's why I teach the way I do, why eBassGuitar includes multiple learning formats and modalities. It's made me more empathetic, creative, and a more adaptive teacher. And on top of that, it's allowed me to design a life where I can be present for my son and family and go to every school event or football match, choose the gigs that I play, and help others unlock their musical potential, all on my own terms. If I was stuck in more of the traditional rat race, there's a good chance much of this may not have been possible. To anyone watching who's struggling, who's feeling overwhelmed, different, less than, you're not broken or flawed. Dyslexia doesn't define you, but it can help explain you. There have definitely been times when dyslexia held me back, not because I wasn't capable or intelligent, but because I didn't realize how many parts of my life it touched. I simply didn't know what I didn't know. But now I understand it more than ever. I'm learning with it, not against it. And that's the shift. Everything I've discovered in recent months about how dyslexia works and how to work with it makes the future feel brighter than ever. I'm really, truly excited by the discoveries I've made and how to overcome them. Dyslexia has been my challenge, but it's also been my superpower too. So now I want to hear from you too. Drop me a comment below and tell me your story. Whether you're a musician, a parent, a teacher, or someone still figuring out, I'd love to hear how dyslexia has shown up in your life. So let's break the stigmas. Let's share the strength. Let's keep the conversations going. And particularly if you're a young musician with dyslexia trying to figure it all out, drop me a line in the comments below or reach out. I'll do everything in my power to help you along. You're not alone. I've been exactly where you are. And because I can say this with 100% certainty, my dyslexia didn't hold me back. It's ultimately unlocked me. Cheers. I've been James from eBassGuitar.com. And in the words of Paul Thompson, remember, the music is always with you. Catch you next time.